Hi everyone, welcome to another video in our Leaders Voices project. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Amanda Strange. Amanda's a director at the HR department. She works to provide HR and employment law advice to SMEs in Cheltenham, Stroud and Cirencester. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you, Joe. I'm delighted to be here.
It's great to have you with us. It's so good. It's going to be great to hear your story. What's this crisis been like for you? You know, what have you seen and what have you experienced as a sort of outsourced HR consultant supporting small businesses?
Well, it's been really extremely challenging, I guess, because prior to the first lockdown, I think everybody was watching the news from afar about the virus, but I don't think businesses were really prepared for the impact it was going to have. And then overnight, everything changed drastically with the announcement, obviously, of the first lockdown. And we hadn't heard of furloughing staff before. It was a new concept for everybody. And for me, I remember when I was previously in a senior employed role, I'm responsible for a business continuity plan, which looked at in the event of a pandemic. The main focus of those plans were around operating with a skeleton staff and ensuring payroll could still operate, and also supporting managers with managing the absences and the high level of absences. Plans always assumed that businesses would continue to operate, they'd still be open, and it didn't take account of the whole country being in a total lockdown. So like all HR professionals, we had to advise in the context of uncharted waters and of great uncertainty, and whereas we would normally look for precedents on which we could base our advice on, and that obviously wasn't there this time, and it was all new and very rapidly changing. So it's been an interesting time.
And I was thinking, yeah, you said no one adhered to the word furlough. I think it became the word of the year in some circles.
Definitely.
Yeah. Out of all of those different challenges and out of everything you experienced, what would you say was the biggest challenge that you encountered?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge was the need to be able to provide answers quickly against the backdrop of the government announcements with only very high level information being provided. So, for example, the initial announcement about the coronavirus job retention scheme, like I said before, we'd never heard of furloughing staff, and the detail of the guidance wasn't there straight away. And even then, when it was, it's evolved over time as it's gradually changed as well. And clients wanted to take action straight away, which is obviously understandable. So the challenge was to be able to ensure that I was able to quickly give pragmatic advice that enabled plans to be made, but flag up areas that may need to be changed once we got the further detail of the guidance. And also, as time's gone on, the challenge has been able to keep up to date with the changing guidance with everything else that's going on as well, because there's been so much information coming out. So, that's really been the biggest challenges for us.
You're actually our HR support at the Innovation Beehive. And I know we were sort of texting you or emailing you at 5:30 as soon as the announcements had come out of Downing Street. And you're like, well, give me a minute.
But, haven't quite processed that yet.
Yeah. But I have to say, speaking as one of your clients, sometimes it only took you a minute. It certainly didn't take you very long. So what was your secret? What did you do to address that challenge? What was the structure or the process you put in place to get those answers as right as they could be and out as quickly as you could?
Yeah, so for me, I found that operating under the HR department brand has been invaluable during that time. The HR department is run as a franchise, so it means that it's a network of individual HR professionals operating their own business but under one brand. And the strength of the network really came into its own over the last year, in that we were able to share the common questions that were being asked by our clients, and then pull on each other's knowledge and experience to be able to provide those responses. So it was a real benefit to me in that I felt confident when I was advising clients, knowing what everybody else was saying in the network. So that gave me confidence. It meant that I had answers much more quickly, which I might not have had those answers that quickly if I'd been operating as an independent business or even as an in-house HR employee. So the HR department also developed the Coronavirus Hub on our website, which included a range of frequently asked questions and a number of resources, and that was for the benefit of our clients and our and non-clients. And again, I wouldn't have been able to produce that if I'd been operating on my own. I wouldn't have had the resources to be able to do that. But with, you know, the combined resources, the knowledge and the experience of the whole network, we've been able to produce that and keep it up to date over time.
So that's really interesting there, what you said about the network and having this network. And then, you know, you mentioned that maybe people who operate in-house wouldn't necessarily have access to that network. But, you know, we're talking to a lot of people through this recording who maybe are working in-house and, you know, a part of HR teams or, you know, sitting as leaders of HR teams. And what advice would you give to HR leaders who are maybe operating in-house in teams or running HR for a business?
So I think my biggest insight has been being part of a strong supportive network over this time has been really invaluable. And as well as being able to access that combined knowledge, it's also important to know that you're not alone in experiencing those challenges. And whilst everyone has had different experiences, I think almost all businesses have had to lean on HR over the last year. And it's important, I think, as HR professionals that you also know that you've got somebody else to lean on as well that understands the challenges that you're facing. So I think, you know, being a member of CIPD is really worthwhile. Also, another way is to build your network is to look at having a presence on LinkedIn and look at joining professional groups on there where you can ask questions and contribute so that you can share experience in that way. And the other thing is, I guess if you're an in-house HR function, then you may also want to look at engaging additional support from a company like the HR department where you can tap into their network and gain the benefit from that as well.
Okay, Amanda, my final question is, what do you think that the future holds for the HR community, for our colleagues out there watching this?
Okay, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the future unfolds for HR professionals, because I think over the last 12 months, HR has really been able to show the value that it can add to a business, whether that's on an outsourced basis for SMEs or as an in-house function for larger businesses. But I think there will continue to be uncertainty on the horizon as, you know, the pandemic isn't over, and obviously we have Brexit implications as well. So everybody needs to get used to operating in that context of uncertainty and start to be comfortable with it. But I think a couple of points that I think will unwrap for within HR is that the last 12 months has made people evaluate what makes them happy. And I think a lot of people who may not have been very happy in their roles may decide to do something different. And also a lot of people have got used to the additional flexibility and the home working and may not want to return to the office full time. And also people have found home working isolating as well, and it doesn't suit everybody's circumstances. So I think businesses really need to think about their approach in terms of the future of retention and attracting and retaining their staff, because I think they really will need to look at how they go about that, and especially with the Brexit changes in terms of recruiting staff from overseas. Some businesses will need to look at their strategies for that, and obviously mental health is still going to be a real high priority as well. But all of it creates great opportunities for HR to continue to show that the value that they can add to businesses. But my advice to HR professionals is to make sure that you're part of a really strong network.
Great. Brilliant. Thank you. Well, I think, you know, out of what you just said there about the future, I completely agree with everything you said. And one of the reasons we're making these videos is so that we can capture the learning that people have taken from this crisis so that they can apply it to the next. And I think we've got some great learning from this conversation. Amanda, thank you so much. Amanda Strange, the HR department. Thanks everyone for watching, and join us again for another Leaders Voices project. So for now, Amanda, I'd just like to say thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.